the one, the only, the legend himself, Warren Moon. Join us right now on BetMGM tonight. Warren, welcome to the show, my man. Let's go ahead and start off in fantasy circles. Caleb Williams has delivered and then some. However, according to some casual NFL fans, there's a lot of varied opinions about his overall performance for the second-year passer. What's your view on the Bears' Caleb Williams now 5 weeks in, and thoughts on the Bears in general that get the Commanders this week on Monday night?
Yeah, it should be a really good game, and Caleb is definitely evolving. He's developing. I mean, he's in a new offense for the second year in a row, and he's almost like a rookie again, except for he's played some games under his belt last year. But as far as what he's learning and what they're asking him to learn to become more of a rhythm passer, it's not something that you do overnight, especially if you're a guy that's used to ad-libbing and creating plays with your legs and buying time and getting outside the pocket. Now they're asking him to throw on time, hit that back foot, let the ball go. So he's coming along. He's making some progress. I can see that the ball is coming out faster than it did last year. And I think they have a really good football team. It's just a matter of getting really good, consistent quarterback play, which if he can do that, they have a chance. And then defensively, they're not bad.
Warren, all the guys that I run into at the gym, I had to flex, that I still work out. Everybody's worried about Patrick Mahomes. What's wrong with Mahomes? Kelsey's washed. Has the game passed by Andy Reid? I think it's all crazy talk, but when you watch these games, the team's struggling right now. They just lost to Jacksonville. Big game coming up this weekend against a good Lions team. Have you noticed anything different about Pat? Do you think it's just he hasn't really had any healthy wide receivers, and Rashee Rice hasn't even played a snap yet this season? Do you think the Chiefs can turn it on this season, or what have you noticed about them on the offensive side of the ball, especially with Pat running the show?
I think they've looked as good in the last 2 weeks offensively as they've looked in a long time. They scored, 28, 31 points the other night, and, Patrick was over 300 yards for the ball game. His percentage was high. He did have the one bad interception that went back for a touchdown, but that was just a really good play by their defense. They faked a blitz like they were coming up inside, then he backed off. Patrick didn't see the linebacker underneath, and he takes it back for a touchdown. But even Travis Kelce, I think he caught 5 or 6 balls in that game as well. So I think they're starting to turn the corner a little bit because Patrick is starting to trust his offensive line. He seems a little bit more comfortable in the pocket. And when he does have to make plays with his legs, he's able to do that as well. So that was a pretty good Jacksonville defense they played against the other night. They moved the ball up and down the field against them. But their defense is what I was more worried about in that game. They didn't play as well as they normally do. So they just got to put a whole game together. They really hurt themselves on special teams with penalties. They had 12 penalties on both sides of the ball and special teams, and you just can't do that if you're going to win ball games on the road.
The other good story, or I guess surprise story in the NFL, on the good side, though, would be Daniel Jones, his play for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, they're winning football games. It helps that Jonathan Taylor is on pace right now for over 1,600 rushing yards. He looks like he could win Offensive Player of the Year. But what's changed for Danny Dimes other than just the jersey that he's wearing right now? Because this is his third stop, and he looks like he could be a Pro Bowl quarterback this year.
Well, that's for one, is Taylor behind him. Having a great running back really helps any quarterback. I think Shane Steichen, their offensive coordinator, has really developed an offense where Danny can get the ball out of his hands really quickly. He's throwing the ball at a very high percentage because he's throwing a lot of high percentage passes where those guys are making nice runs after the catch. And they're making it really simple for him. He's not having to hold the football, even though he does have a really good offensive line in front of him. But he's not holding the ball. He's getting the ball out of his hands really quickly, and they're running the ball very well. And then their defense is really creating a lot of turnovers. So, yeah, this is one of the better football teams in the league after 5 or 6 weeks. We'll see if they can keep this up. But right now, Dan seems to be playing with a lot of confidence. He's like I said, getting the ball out of his hands. He's not holding on to it. He's making quick decisions. And that's what you want your quarterback to do.
We're talking legend himself, Moon, Pro Football Hall of Famer, master of the run and shoot, and a Tecmo Bowl star as well in pixelated form, of course. course. Heading to the Great Northwest, an area you're very familiar with, Sam Darnold is coming off a season-high 4 passing touchdowns. He and Jaxon Smith-Njigba have established an unbreakable bond. Who does JSN remind you of, and do you think he leads the NFL in receiving yards this year? Right now at BetMGM, he's plus 450 to do exactly that.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of his teammate now, Cooper Kupp, when he was with the Rams, when he was a little bit younger, a little bit quicker, really good underneath route runner, really knows how to work the zones, find the different cavities and get open, and can go deep every now and then when you need him to. So he's done that, and he's making the difficult catches. He's just one of those wide receivers that comes out of Ohio State that seems to be very successful in the NFL, especially over the last 5 or 6 years. And him and Sam have really developed a great communication between each other very early in their tenure. So if they continue to keep improving like this, he's going to have an all-pro season. He's off to a great start this year.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. What team, whether overachieving or underachieving, has stunned you the most as we enter NFL Week 6?
What was the first part of that?
What team that has stunned you the most,
team?
whether overachieving or underachieving?
I'd have to say the Baltimore Ravens. They were one of my teams I thought were going to make that next move this year to, possibly win the AFC, just because of the roster that they put together on the defensive side of the ball in the offseason. They really fortified their secondary. They were really good up front. And then of course, Lamar Jackson and having Derrick Henry back there, that's a great 1-2 punch to try and stop. So it just hasn't worked for them this year, starting with the first game of the season against Buffalo. And it's gone downhill from there with all the injuries that they've had on the defensive side of the ball. And now Lamar Jackson is down. So they've been one of the more disappointing teams to me in the league.
Warren, just kind of a random question. You played on some iconic jersey teams from back in the day. If you had a throwback jersey, whether a scheme or just overall style, what's your, please say Houston Oilers?
Of the Houston Oilers jerseys?
Yeah, is that your favorite? Are you like old school Seattle Seahawks?
I think that Houston Oilers uniform is just one of the best looking uniforms that we've had in the NFL over a long period of time. Either the blue one or the all white one. I like them both, and we look good when we came out, and we weren't the most intimidating looking team because of those colors. Because most teams that are intimidating usually have like something dark or black or whatever. But those uniforms are really good looking, and they're still good looking today.
Warren, I want to piggyback off that, actually. That's a perfect segue for me because I know you gave Cam Ward your blessing to wear the number 1 jersey that you wore for the Oilers. So, he gets his first victory last week, and I love Cam Ward. I loved him at every stop, especially at Miami, where he made himself a lot of money. But I had in my Survivor League, man, the Arizona Cardinals. And watching them just completely melt cost me a lot of money. So I'm sad, but I'm happy for Cam. Your thoughts? Obviously, young quarterback, struggling team, but he gets better every single week. Your early thoughts on Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, he's coming along. Whenever you're the number 1 overall pick, it usually means you go to a bad football team, unless, you like Caleb Williams last year because they traded up to get him. So the Chicago Bears weren't a bad roster. But the Tennessee Titans, they're a very young team. They're a team that's trying to build through the draft. Adding a couple of pieces in free agency, of course. He just doesn't have the weapons around him yet right now to really be successful, but I think that eventually will happen. You saw some of that frustration come out a couple of weeks ago after they lost to the Houston Texans, and he said some things that he probably felt bad about, but they came back and bounced back last week. They didn't win in a customary manner, but a win is a win, especially when you're on the road, and they got their first win. So let's see if they can catapult off that and try and get a second one together. But it's going to be a long year for them as far as what he's used to, and that's just kind of what happens when you're building a football team from the ground up.
Tremendous stuff for the one, the only, the tightest spiral in the history of the NFL. I will challenge anybody who disagrees.
And it's still tight, man. It's still tight.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet it is. I bet you can still grip it and rip it in the backyard right now. It'd be an honor to see that in live and in living color. To this day, there's so many fond memories of that tight spiral. Pro Football Hall of Famer, master of the run and shoot, a guy that we loved in Tecmo Bowl, and he looks absolutely sick and gorgeous on a card as well, especially one that's PSA graded and ultra shiny. Warren, we appreciate the time as always here on BetMGM tonight. We also thank you for your insights. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, and everybody who's betting out there, make sure you only bet as much as you can, not too much.
Great message.
Wise words of the Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Listen to him, folks.